My name is Nico Kanakaris. I'm from Greek ancestry. I live in Belgium. I'm born in Belgium. And what I do is, I have a radio show, and I can't really define what kind of radio show: jazz, blues, soul, world music, almost anything you name it. I'm interested in it. And you're listening to Talkin Blues.
So your radio show is called Blue Notes.
Yes.
Which automatically conjures up jazz for me, but it's not about jazz.
Yes.
Tell me about how the love of music came about.
That's very easy to say. I was the youngest of 6, and my brothers listened to, let's say, on the one hand, Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple. I'm born in 1970, so obviously these things you get them. That's very good. And on the other hand, another brother was more listening to the more the more danceable stuff, like George Benson, the Brothers Johnson, everything Quincy Jones released. So when you get these things as a child, because I was a real child, it's I feel it can go wrong when you are brought up with these kind of influences, but it has to come from yourself. Many people grow up like that and they don't care about music. So growing up and with these things in the back of my mind, you are young, you go out, you are 12 years old. When you are young, you listen to the music of your brothers. Then when you are 16, 17, you discover your own music. In the beginning it's pop music, I think that's natural. And the pop music, I always lean towards the black side of the music, soul music and funk music. And then we're talking about the 80s, Luther Vandross, George Benson. These things I always gravitated towards. And but pop music is also something that's very, it comes and goes. So sometimes you like things. Afterwards you say, okay, that was not really great music, but is a part of your youth growing up. You like things that are cringy, as we say.
Right.
But they have their value at that time. And one of the artists that I got into when I was like 17 was the British pop singer, soul singer, Rick Astley. And it was because of this voice that he had. He had this voice of, like really, I thought he was African American when that I really knew what I wanted to listen to. So I gravitated more towards, what was coming out back then, like Will Downing, people like that. And then there is the blues side of things, which came to me. It was always there because, with Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple, blues is their foundation.
Right.
I always say that I got the blues from Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, and jazz from Keith Emerson. Because what he plays, there's a lot of jazz in there. And his heroes are, like Oscar Peterson, Jack McDuff. And these things somehow were inside of me. I kept them somewhere.
Did you ever play?
I tried to play guitar. I always say I learned the pentatonic scale, and they always say that's enough. But I discovered that while trying to play guitar, and that was in the period that I rediscovered the blues through. Actually, I had to tell the story. It was through, I heard Tony Joe White on the radio. He was singing Polk Salad Annie. And for some reason I heard a version of Elvis doing Polk Salad Annie. And for some other reason I went into Elvis's comeback special. And when he did the sit-down show, and they were just playing That's All Right Mama and all these things, that kind of struck a chord with me. And then I delved all the way down to the Big Bill Broonsies, Sonny Terry, Brownie McGhee. And then I was swimming in a sea of blues. And there I felt that, hey, wait a minute, the feeling that I get from this music is a feeling that I got when I was younger listening to Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple. They had that as well, the blues. Right. It was there that it struck me. And then there's the jazz side of things. I have to mention that as well. Growing up, we lived in Belgium, and we looked at the German television. You know, like when I was 10 years old, there was not much television back then. You had 2 or 3 stations, and the Belgian and the German television stations always showed these gangster movies, film noir, as we call them. You know, like The Man with the Golden Arm. And when you listen to those soundtracks, that's big band jazz all the way. I love that sound, even when I was a child. That's also something that's, you know, it's fed into me and it's stayed there, but it came back out when I heard in 1990, I was just 20 years old, Harry Connick Jr. with this big hit. He had a big hit in the charts, and that was like swing, big band. Mm-hmm. And that ignited again my love for that side. So from there on, I went to, you know, Harry Connick Jr. Okay, he plays piano. I'm going to check out Oscar Peterson. Then that connected to Keith Emerson again, because that was also from my youth. So this is the way it went for me, and it you know, it kept on going and growing as well, because even today I discover new things. Like we talked before, I went to a Turkish clarinet player, which was amazing. Mm-hmm. He played with so much soul, because that's what I hear. I don't understand the words, you know, sometimes they sing as well, but the music that he played was very intense, very soulful, and very, like almost bluesy.
If we go back to you growing up, how easy was it to access music? In terms of, I mean, there's radio, there's no internet, but just let's say you like big Bill Broonzy, how do you find that? Was it easy to find old blues records or jazz records?
Yeah, when I was growing up, Big Bill Broonzy was not around for me in my world. When I was, you know, like in the pre-internet era, like when I was 10, 12 years old, we're talking about 1980, 1982. Right. It was all, you know, what I got from home, the records. And my brothers had a lot of records, you know. I have to mention my brother George. He learned, you know, he took home the records of Emerson and Palmer. He was heavy into progressive rock, Emerson and Palmer, the Doors. So it was from them. And the other brother was Costa. He passed away in 1986. He had that jazz funk side of him. So they brought these records at home, and cassettes of friends, compilations. I also remember very well, I have to mention this, the album of Al Di Meola, the Elegant Gypsy album from 1976 or 77. So I was 8 years old then, 7, 8. So I got from my brothers, you know, access from my brothers. Afterwards, you know, being 20 years old, you find things. The internet was kind of coming up, and you start to find things, and CDs, you know, going out and looking for CDs, because I still remember one of my first jazz CDs was, I think it was Quincy Jones's This Is How I Feel About Jazz. Just the cover of it and just the title. And it's very strange. One of the first jazz albums was that. It's very strange because in the 20 years after that, I discovered that of my record collection, there's a lot of albums from different styles. You know, there's big band, there's funk, there's blues, and there's this and that, and soundtracks. And I noticed that on the back of these albums, they had the same logo, like a Q and a line. I thought to myself in the beginning, oh, it's a record company. Then, you know, when you go deeper and deeper into the music, I discovered that's the name of the producer, Quincy Jones. Okay, so he is this guy that did all these things, so separate, different styles, and I love all of them. So there began my journey to the music of Quincy Jones, of course, and the story that we can tell later, that I made a book for him. I have it here with me, to, you know, to show to him what he did for me musically. And 4 weeks later, I got a book from him back with the front page written all over what I did. He loved what I did, and I touched his heart. And yeah, that was a special moment. Mm-hmm. And then meeting him afterwards, that's another story. But that shows how it went for me. I didn't specifically, go out and search. I have to find this or that. It's all pretty natural, pretty organic.
I wonder, at what point did you decide that I want to do this on radio? I want to create a radio program.
Yeah, that point is very clear to me. It was in the 2000s that I really started to dig deeper and deeper into music. One of the stories about that is because we talk about blues, and I went in the blues route first through the acoustic blues guys. Very soon after that, I discovered somebody that was popular when you were in the 1990s looking for blues, Stevie Ray Vaughan, of course. I loved his playing. And then I met this guy where I worked, Mark Lormans. He's a local blues guitar player. And he's called the Ronnie Earl of Belgium. And he said to me, you gotta check out Ronnie Earl. Like I am open to many things, I checked him out. And there I found that this is it, I found this is my guy, He combines so many things. There's this deepness of his music. You've interviewed him. It was a fantastic interview, I have to say. And there's so many things that came together with Ronnie Earl that, I started to realize that, hey, I have to really search deeper and deeper into music because you find treasures there. So I began to listen to radio shows, jazz radio shows, Belgian radio, German radio, Holland radio. Podcasts were not done back then. And so a couple of years later, I looked at my record collection. I thought to myself, wait a minute, I've got all these CDs here. Like back then it was like 1,000 or 2,000. Now it's like 6,000, 7,000. And I thought, I listened to these guys, not really saying anything interesting, just announcing the music. And I like some things and some things. And what I've noticed, I have to rephrase it. I've listened to jazz radio shows, I've listened to blues radio shows, and what I always felt like I was a little bit frustrated. The jazz radio shows were like a funeral. They were so serious, it was like a funeral. And then I listened to the blues radio shows, they leaned heavily towards, rock, blues rock music. And I thought, wait a minute, there has to be an in-between line because jazz and blues are so connected. So that was like this first idea in my head that maybe something that I want to do sometime. Then in 2012, I decided, it's time to take that step and try this out. And there it really started off. In the beginning, I didn't do interviews the first years. I thought to myself, who am I to do interviews? I don't know if that's...
But does that mean you played? Did you talk a lot about the music that you were playing? Did you give a lot of information between songs?
Yes. I noticed that when I was, making my playlist, I was looking for a red line every episode. A certain organ player who played with Kenny Burrell, and then he played with Mus Montgomery, and I tried to make that a line in my show. Things like that. Hammond organ, another one of my passions. But to say that that was one of the things that drove me to, okay, I'm gonna make my radio show, I'm just gonna play some music. There has to be a theme. And from a theme, from making a theme in every radio show came specials. My first radio special was about, of course, Quincy Jones. It was something that I worked on a couple of months, this looking up interviews, cutting audio clips, pasting them on the music. And then my second was about Toots Thielemans, which I gave to him as well when I met him in 2012. I just started my radio show in 2012, and then I met Toots in his dressing room, sitting there with John Scofield, I think, yeah. John Scofield was as well there. And that was a little bit maybe a moment that I thought, I'm talking with one of the biggest people in jazz for the last 50 years. We talk about music, and he talked about it with me, and we had, exchanging ideas. And then I thought to myself, you know what, I can do this as well. I can talk with these people.
Did you record that into?
No, it was just a casual talk.
Right.
That's just really a pity that I didn't record that. But it didn't occur to me. But then I thought to myself, look, Toots Thielemans was sitting here with Larry Goldings and John Scofield and me, and he treated me like them. Mm-hmm. That was like a trigger that, okay, not like you're in a club, but you're accepted. You can do your own thing with this. And then, it's, first interviews are always very...
Who was the first?
Well, the first was actually a Turkish singer. She sang jazz and a little bit, standards, jazz and Turkish songs, Greek songs. Very interesting. She's now a pretty big star in Holland. Karsu was the first interview. Still like her music. She's a great voice. And my second interview was with Stacey Kent, the jazz singer. And that was really, still today, I think that's one of my, not for me, for my sake, best interviews, but you have to hear her talk. She has this incredibly soothing voice. Just her talking voice is like $1 million worth. And she told this story so beautifully. That still is one of my favorite interviews. If I have to call out one, because I've done like 500 now, I think. But at the end of the day, when you're doing it for now like 13 years, it gets hazy. You don't know who, where, or what. But that was really very beautiful, because I noticed that she had a lot of, interaction with me, because I did a lot of research on her music. And that's one of the main ingredients, I think, to doing an interview like you, of course.
I don't do any, I shouldn't say any, but I'm the level of research that I do comes nowhere close to the level of research you do. It's impressive when I listen to your show and I think, oh my God, he knows so much stuff. So you said, like, in some cases you've spent 4 months researching things.
Yeah, sure.
If it wasn't that, what goes into a regular show? Like, how much work goes into?
Oh yeah, a regular show is also something that I can work on for a week or two, because it overlaps. When sometimes you're working on one type of radio show. There are radio shows, of course, that you do off the fly.
Right.
That you didn't have time, anything, and they are good as well. They can be great. Just take from your CD collection. Okay, I'm gonna take this and this and this. I'm gonna make something out of it, and that can work as well. That's also very charming to do. But usually I wanna, have this artist I wanna feature, and then after this artist plays, that song, I wanna play that same song from another artist. So you understand, there's things that you have to, and you work on something like that. Like they're numbered. I am now it's 670 today, and so it's like when I'm working on 555, I'm at the same time working on 556. So they overlap each other.
Right.
So they take a couple of, sometimes a week or two, in between my day job, because I have a day job as well. And a normal radio show as well has, a lot of research, because I also get records from record companies to play new things. Mm-hmm. So, and there I try to put them between music that's can, not contradict the new music, but to show that this new music kind of, has its place between certain standards. This is what I'm trying to do, placing the music in another context. Even popular music, sometimes there's a popular song out, and you place it in a different context, it gets different, lighting on things.
In the beginning, when you started your radio show, how long did it take for you to get the rhythm of it, or to feel like, I think this is what I had in mind? I mean, I presume it's an ongoing changing thing, but was there a moment where you thought, okay, this is really where I want to be?
It's very easy to answer. My first idea of my radio show is almost unchanged until now.
Really?
Yeah, I started out, I said to myself, I want to start a radio show, it's going to be 2 hours. The music will be, what we talked about, jazz, blues, soul, soundtracks, just music, great music. I usually start with something snappy, something swinging, not too long, because there's radio shows that start with a track 10 minutes long. And when I listen to that, okay, that's fine, but what are we listening to? We have to wait 10 minutes to hear. So that's, the method that I started out is almost unchanged. And I usually wanted to end with a live track at every radio show. And I try to, do segments of a little bit more jazz, a couple of jazz tracks, a couple of blues tracks. Of course, over the years, there's music that sneaks in. There's a lot of world music more now. I play a lot of more world music with Arab influences, which is this like that came through the ECM record label. It's jazz record label, but they have people like Anwar Brahim on there, the oud player, and they do these things and they sound so organic, and they blend so well when you play jazz. I think this has its place there. It's a different kind of improvisation. It's a different kind of expression, but it creeps in there, And over the years, there has been a little bit of change, because I'm growing as well musically. I thought like 10, 15 years ago, okay, this is it. I know everything. I heard everything, but there's always more. There's always comes, and I think that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But if I listen to one of my first radio shows, I still can put it out today, because I try to make it also timeless. Not, as I said, listening to other radio shows which I like, they play 100% new music. That has to be done.
Right.
But I always feel like it's unfair to the listener. That's my opinion, of course, that you have to hear something new, but you have to hear the older things as well to put it in context. Okay, where do I put this new thing between the history? That is my intention.
Knowing that you have a format that you're very comfortable with, that you have kind of modified but kind of lived through from the very beginning, do you ever have bad shows? Do you ever have shows where you're less than happy?
Yeah, that happens.
And what would that be? Why would that time?
No, it's not. It's not about the music. Music is usually pretty okay. Or I get something new that I really don't support, or think that, what is this? What can I do with this? And
right.
I have to play it, and I play it. It's fair to the artist and to the listener. But I think, I don't know what this is, what I played, and bad shows can be bad, but when I'm not good at that day, because I do them live,
right.
90% are live, and I do everything alone. I don't have anybody who does the technical side, because usually radio shows are a couple of people, and there are technical issues, so things can go wrong. But afterwards, I edit it out. So that's still good shows. But it happens, there's days that and time is something that, we don't have enough of.
Yeah, especially you. Like, I can't imagine, you work a full-time job.
Yeah.
You're constantly thinking about new shows. You're trying to go after interviews. You're getting new material that you're trying to program, you're trying to put together. I mean, how much time are you listening to music in a given day?
Yeah, it's a little bit crazy what I do actually so many years. And sometimes you get like, okay, I have to have a break of this because it gets too much.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep it up. But I have my break. I have my week or two that I know now no interviews, no nothing, because I have so many radio shows on stack. I can send in a couple to the radio program that they can play a radio show from a couple of weeks before. It won't be noticed because I have radio shows that are not specifically about one artist, so you can use them as reuse them. So I have to have a little bit of breathing time. But yeah, it's difficult, but it's like I am now in this pattern that I'm constantly listening. I'm going to the bakery in my car, I listen to this. I'm home, I have my computer on, I have a certain interview with somebody on there, which I'm editing. I'm choosing tracks to put between the music. I go down, I go walk with my dog, I take my headphones, I listen to something while I'm doing that. I know you can't do everything at once, you have to have off time as well. And I have that, I think, just about enough. But I try to, combine things. But if you don't, you can't do that, what I'm doing, because it is a full-time job, actually, what I'm trying to do.
Right. I'm interested in finding about interviews. When you have the second interview you did was still one of your favorites.
Yeah.
It's interviews are difficult because you never know how they're going to turn out. And sometimes they're amazing, and then it becomes hard to live up to in the next one. And oftentimes they're less than amazing.
Yeah.
How has your interview technique changed over the years?
Yeah, has it changed? I don't know if it's changed. It's just you feel that you get more comfortable when you don't know what to ask, because you've done so many interviews and you kind of know how to improvise yourself out of a tricky situation. That's something that's maybe a little bit more comforting. But my approach is always, research as much as possible.
Right.
Be prepared. A quote of Quincy Jones, he said, when you had an opportunity, you have to be prepared. That's everything. Prepare yourself. And I try to be prepared. And usually I'm over-prepared. That's also not good. And you have because when you're over-prepared, you have too much things you want to talk about, and then you lose sight of 2 or 3 main ingredients that you want to talk about. It's a fine line to find just enough and not too much, and that's tricky. And the practical side of things, you have to have time. When I was sitting here in a hotel room, that's the ideal circumstance. I have that a couple of times. Like one time I remember it was with Sheila Jordan. She just come up to my hotel room, and she was talking about having Charlie Parker in her room, sleep where she lived, and he was playing with a bird. She had a little bird, and stories like that, you think. And I was sitting there, I talked with her for 1 hour, with a bebop legend. So these are the perfect circumstances. But there are times that you are backstage.
With a lot of noise?
A lot of noise. And they say, okay, you have 10 minutes. And then you sit there in front of somebody and you have a list of 20 topics to talk about.
Yeah.
That is not ideal. But you try to get the best out of it, and you prioritize what's the most important thing. So, but it's difficult. It's a struggle.
You've had the pleasure of interviewing some of your musical heroes, yes, like Quincy Jones, like Carl Palmer.
Yes.
I mean, one thing I know about you is, well, a couple of things I know about you. You love your jazz.
Yes.
But you love your Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Yeah, that's...
So, and I know I've been in situations like this when there's something different about interviewing somebody that you idolized when you were growing up. And I find that really exciting, but really challenging. Tell me about both of those situations, and I'm sure you've had many, many more.
Yes.
Where you're dealing with people whose music you grew up with, who made a major imprint on you as a musical fan, and to have the chance to sit down and talk to them.
Yes, first I have to point out, I talked with Quincy Jones. I didn't interview him, but I talked with him. So that is surreal, because that's so hard to get to. It was thanks to his management that saw that, okay, we have to let this guy meet him one day. So and we talked a little bit about Toots, about Sammy Davis Jr. But because I wanted to interview him, but I didn't get the chance. But if I got the chance, it would have been fantastic, because I knew so much. And there's so many things that people did not ask him that I feel I wanted to ask him. But besides that, I think most of my musical heroes I have talked to. I feel that I talked to Ronnie Earl through your interview, because when you talked with him, it's like I was thinking like, okay, I can't add anything to that. This is perfect. That's what I thought. Yeah, of course, I want to talk with him if I get the chance. But another guy, another big force before we get to Carl Palmer is Al Di Meola. I talked with him 2 times. One time short, and one time was over an hour. And that was it. I try to approach him from my lens, being a child, hearing his music, hearing the Latin aspect in his music. I try to do that, and I listen to, many hours of his interviews, and I try to avoid the obvious things. And with Carl Palmer, of course, that was also surreal, because I was 7 years old, sitting at the stereo and putting on the records and drumming, along every note. I knew them all by heart. And he took his time. We didn't have an hour, but I made sure I was really prepared, and the questions were very pointed and very, this, and this you have to ask. And I got all the questions through. And how is it to interview your heroes? I find most of the time it's very gratifying. I didn't find to block or anything. I can get nervous sometimes, but I saw him the gig, and I saw him a couple of times, and it wasn't hard for me to do. It was fulfilling, very fulfilling. Afterwards, you feel empty. I've done this. What else can I do?
It's an interesting thing, eh? I mean, it's great to have that high.
Yeah.
When you go through it and you know that you nailed it, and you walk out of that interview and think, that was such a great experience to live.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you go, now what?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That doesn't last long, because when I'm scrolling on my timeline, because this is the way I try to keep up with all the concerts that are going on in Germany, Holland, Belgium, even France sometimes. There's always something new that comes up, and okay, this person is coming there. Okay, let's focus on that. So I leave it behind. What I just did, where I spent hours and weeks preparing, and you have a new goal. It's always, and this is like this driving force. There's always a new goal. You're always working towards something, and even now it's like that. I've got 2 or 3 things ahead, and listening to all of these things at the same time. I'm let's say I listen to artist A today, tomorrow artist B, the day after that artist C, and then again A, and then at the end of the couple of weeks I have a little bit of an image of, okay, this is what he stands for and this is what he stands for, and I'm gonna try to make my own narrative of the, if I get the chance to interview him. And even then maybe it's just 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you have to have something really that sticks out, that catches their attention. That okay, this is not what I expected, and it works. Usually it works, if you really do your homework, respecting their careers. It usually it works. Sometimes you don't get really a reaction that you think you should get, or it's a little bit flat. That happens as well.
I always find that going into it, and I don't know how one doesn't do this, but there are expectations you create.
Yeah.
And sometimes those are the worst things to do. Because if I think, okay, this is going to go like this.
Yeah.
And it rarely does. Sometimes it's better, but sometimes it just kind of falls short of that.
Yeah, it flattens.
Yeah, but I mean, it's unfair to create that expectation. Or even, sometimes you think, okay, I'm going to ask this question and they're going to talk about this. So that will lead me to something else. And you ask the question and they don't talk about that. And then you think, oh, where am I going to go now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you build this expectation on that premise. This is my big arch that I want to...
Yeah.
And then they really don't want to talk about it, although they avoid it.
Yeah.
And then you are on empty ground,
Well, you just have to reset and try to figure out,
That's difficult.
What music excites you now?
Now, it's like the circle. The circle keeps going around and around. And there are things that add up to this circle. Circle gets bigger. But it's not like I don't listen now to this or that music that I loved before. Like hearing the new album of Raphael Resnick, the Hammond player.
Mm-hmm.
That was such a joy to hear somebody to play like, Jack McDuff or Jimmy McGriff, the new artist that does this style. That excites me a lot because I played a lot. And then I play these albums more on my radio show. I'm sorry, but I have my own taste as well. And I don't try to force that on people. But it's natural when you have a radio show, you play the things that you love a little bit more. But you try to be fair,
Yeah.
You don't kill your darlings. And but it can vary, if there's a new album out, a blues album, let's say, and let's say DK Harrell's his album, the previous album, I thought I played that a lot when we talk about blues. And why? Because I thought it was so well produced, it sounded so good. There were so many ingredients in there that I loved. Having talked to him afterwards at the festival, I learned that, okay, now I know why it sounds so good with all these players there.
Yeah.
I thought, wow, it makes sense. It's usually like that. When I hear something that I think this sounds amazing, it's always the ingredients, the people, the session guys that make it sound so good. And what I'm listening to now is really hard to answer when I'm thinking about it. It's I have these phases, and that has to do with also preparing for interviews. I had the album of the oud player on ECM, Anwar Braham, who had an album with Dave Holland, Anja Lechner, and Django Bates. They had this album out, and I was listening a lot to that music, and then of course discovering his discography as well, going back older albums. So it is, and then you are on this ECM record label thing.
Right.
You check out other things. I talked with the musicians, and they talk about Keith Jarrett recordings on that. So I'm listening to Keith Jarrett as well. And one thing that I take from interviews is I try to learn from musicians because they know best. When they talk about somebody or some album, I try to go out and buy that album or check that out. So this is also for me a pointer, like, okay, you gotta check this out, you gotta check that out. This is also something very, it's that and very natural things. You know, I hear something on the radio, and there are things on the radio that I like. There's even pop music that I like. You can say, okay, do you like, when I talk about somebody that I listen to now, it's the biggest pop star I think now, it's The Weeknd. His music, I think the things he does, the productions, they are great productions. And my son told me that one of his producers is Mike Dean. And I checked him out, and he has this incredible history of being one of the main producers of hip hop. But when I really go after his story, he's like, he talks about Vangelis, the Greek movie composer, and Keith Emerson as two of his main ingredients. I think to myself, wow, now I really want to interview him. But that's the way it goes. You know, it's very organic, and I'm not afraid to say, okay, I like a pop song or something. I think that's great. Or like a couple of years ago, Daft Punk. But their music is a little bit leaning on nostalgia as well.
Right.
So it's a little bit logical, but it's not that I'm excluding that. It's difficult because there's even house music that I listen to. There's this German guy, Hannes Bieger. He plays great house music with Moog synthesizers, with that sound. That's also something that I really am very much into.
I just don't know how you find the time.
Yeah, it's a constant road. Yeah. It's a journey. I usually say, talk about somebody's musical journey, but it is a journey. You know, it starts and it never ends. And then there's gypsy jazz, another completely different thing. But there's also something that I listened to when I was like 20 years old, pretty young. I went into that culture. I go to their gigs. I went into the Sommer-sur-Seine and the Fantôme Bleu, the festival that they have. And then they have these camps outside. I compare a little bit to New Orleans. It's like the European New Orleans. Because New Orleans music is also something that I just discovered the last 5 to 6 years.
Interesting.
And I'm really, really loving it. I mean, John Cleary, your interview with John Cleary, that's opened my world a little bit.
Oh, that's
yeah.
He's such an amazing
he's so incredible. And that music that he stands for is such a different language. Mm. Of course, it's blues and it's rhythm and blues, and a lot of funk comes out of New Orleans. But still, it's this completely new language. And I compare New Orleans a little bit to Samoa, but there all the gypsy jazz guitarists come together. They camp out there at the Seine, and they all have their guitars and their violins, and they just jam together. And if you can, you have to go there sometime. That's such a beautiful organic experience. You just walk around and people are just out, campfires, and just jamming with each other. And that's the gypsy jazz experience, which is heavily on Django Reinhardt, of course.
Right.
He was their god.
I wonder, I don't know the jazz scene at all.
Yeah.
You know the jazz scene. How do you view it at this point? Is it in a healthy place? Is it, because I mean, obviously since the pandemic, everything has gotten difficult and more difficult for a lot of people. Maybe not all people, but how do you view the jazz scene as it stands today?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have my opinion about that, but it's my opinion. My opinion is just one opinion. There's a lot of jazz out in Europe that is very detached from these origins. It's become this new musical style, and when you listen to it, it's kind of hard sometimes to say, okay, this is jazz music. For me, it's kind of hard sometimes. Even the musicians told me sometimes, I'm not really making jazz, I'm just making music. Mm-hmm. And I understand that, but the record companies have to label it something, and they label it jazz music. And these are people that study jazz, conservatory and everything.
Right.
And sometimes I don't know what I feel about it. For me, the ideal thing for me, jazz has to have this blues core in it. I'm a child of the 80s. I'm born in 70, but my musical love for jazz is like 1955 to 1965. And there's many, but the state of jazz is pretty healthy, but there's a lot of lanes now, I think. There's a lot of lanes, there's a traditional side, the Wynton Marsalis side,
Mm-hmm.
people say. But that is also healthy, that's also good to have. There's a lot of big band music out. A lot of people doing big band and orchestras. But there's also new things and new improvisational, people that add to the jazz color. And you don't have to love everything. You don't have to love everything that they put out. But I think the blues aspect is something that I'm beginning to miss sometimes. I don't know if it's going away for good, but sometimes it's kind of going in the back room, and people are creating new music without feeling that sense of that bass starting out from a blues standpoint. And this is something if I go to a jazz gig and it's very experimental and it doesn't move me, but that's my opinion. There's many opinions that people can have about this.
I often wonder if the European scene is much healthier for jazz and for maybe even blues. There's a lot of blues festivals and there's a lot of blues clubs in North America. But I think in terms of jazz, I just wonder if the opportunities to play is as great in North America as it is in Europe.
That's a good question. I can't really say if it's better here. I don't know.
I think overall I get the impression that Europeans treat music more as art. And more respectful. And I think the musicians feel that. They get paid better, they get treated better.
That's true. That's something I hear sometimes. But it's also something that I sometimes regret a little bit, because when I'm at a gig, a jazz gig or a blues gig, maybe more a jazz gig, and people are so into this posture of listening and being serious without being relaxed and without really enjoying them. Sometimes at jazz gigs, and they are swinging like hell, and people are sitting like candles on their seats. And I think to myself, hey, I can't keep quiet, I can't stay still. That's not why this music is played. And sometimes there's times that you have to be quiet. But in Europe, especially in Belgium, you get that feeling that people are too polite, too much in this posture of I have to listen to the music. You have to also enjoy it. And when you're enjoying yourself, you cannot make a little bit of noise here and there. I'm like that. I can't sit at a jazz gig and they're swinging. I can't sit still. I have to move along with the music. And sometimes that's a little bit of a thing that I notice, that in Europe people can be a little bit too stiff and too serious.
You said that you attend concerts in your neighborhood, which would be the Netherlands, Belgium, France, Germany. And you said that there's a bit of a difference between the different places.
Yes.
Is it because it's just different venues, or do you think it's different cultures?
Cultures, yeah.
Tell me that difference.
Yeah, there's difference in the cultures. Holland is a completely different culture musically than Belgium. That's a real difference. Specifically, I can't say this or that, but I see that when I listen to the Holland radio shows, that's maybe kind of an indication of where they're at, and they're much more leaning towards towards R&B and hip hop influence in jazz than the Belgian side, the Belgian radio shows. It's also coming there, but in Holland it's a little bit more looser, a little bit more. And Germany is again another era. I can't really pinpoint what the difference is, but with Belgium and Holland, I feel the difference immediately. Yeah. And Belgium has, of course, that French influence as well. Mm-hmm. That's also in there. That makes also another flavor. And Holland is, you see that on the North Sea Jazz Festival. There's very much, R&B acts coming there and doing gigs. And in Belgium, that was not the case. Although I have to say, the last years, they're kind of like catching up, wanting to be hip as well, as they call it. But I don't think you don't have to be hip. You just have to program good music. And but that's another thing. The festivals that I notice is something that is a little bit the sadder thing about festivals. When you go now, the big festivals, I mean, when you see the names on like the Ghent Jazz Festival or the Nice Jazz Festival or in Holland, a big festival, the names, the top names are all the same. Mm. Now that's a little bit boring, I think.
Same as in North American jazz, or same as in just the favorites? Yeah,
the favorites. I think they get pushed by record companies and all the festivals look alike. Mm. Beginning. That's why you learn like smaller gigs. They are different when you go to Germany and France and Belgium. But the big festivals, they're all beginning to look alike, and that's really, that's like the circus that comes from town to town. The festival has to be a representation of the country and its culture, and that's a little bit going away. But that's a corporate thing, I think, that they have too much impact on who has to play there and there.
What's the music scene like in Belgium, like in regards to supporting Belgium artists?
It is healthy, I think. There's a lot going on in Belgium. There's a lot of people playing gigs. There's a lot of... also in these big jazz festivals, they also try a lot of new young Belgian musicians to incorporate there. Of course, earlier times, not at the closing spot, but it is healthy, and especially here in Brussels, there's a lot going on here. Because it's really very multicultural here in Brussels. Mm-hmm. And you get these, mixes of music, with a lot of Arab music mixes now with jazz. That makes very interesting music, I think.
Do you have any biases towards... I always found it interesting, and people tend to have, obviously they come with their own biases. I interviewed somebody who runs a festival, who said, I don't really get European blues artists because they're not at the same caliber as the Americans. Mm-hmm. There are obviously exceptions, but mm-hmm. Do you have biases like that, or do you see biases like that?
That they do it here as well.
Yeah, I mean, or do you feel like, Belgian jazz musicians might not be the same caliber as North American or French or whatever? Like, is there that kind of thing, or does that exist?
For me personally, I don't. I see there's difference sometimes. But there's a lot of Belgian musicians that just are equal footing as American musicians.
Do you favor them? In Canada, we have a thing called the Canadian content rule. Mm-hmm. So the radio has to play 30% or whatever, some percentage.
Yes.
Is there such a thing here?
I think there is such a thing. I think the big radio stations try to push the Belgian musicians. I think that's fine.
Right.
But and I get also recordings from Belgian musicians. And how can I say this? I don't favor them. I don't put them in front. But if the music is good, I'm gonna play it. But it can happen that I get records of record companies of people that I see, that I interview, and I play them because I saw them, because they live close. Mm-hmm. That can happen. Is that giving somebody another treatment? I don't know, maybe, but when you're close to someone but when the music doesn't hold up, I'm not gonna play it many times. But I also noticed that I discovered, like today, actually, there's come singer-songwriter will come to my radio show that is discovered through Spotify. I heard a song and I liked it very much. I put it on my favorites list and I had it there for a couple of years. And I thought that this was some kind of Los Angeles singer-songwriter with a great production team behind her. But she was Belgian. I didn't know that. So it got on my playlist without me knowing that she was Belgian. So I think this is the best way, the natural way. But there is, of course, for the Belgian speaking audience, there's music, singing music as well. Yeah, that's a different story. I play that sometimes. There's music there that's really good music. But that's because I have a radio show in Belgium. I gotta give the people also something that they know. So that's not, I do not exclude that, but the music has to be, I have to like the music. It has to have a certain quality. And if it's there, I don't care what language it is. But do I favorite Belgian music or do I give it another treatment? I try to think I do not give them different treatment. If it's good enough, I will play it in between Jimmy Smith and everybody, you know, from the States. But yeah, in the blues field, I can understand that there can be a little bit of a bias towards European musicians. Besides exceptions, but the exceptions, if they're good enough, they will make it, you know. And there is this Belgian piano player now, Tom Eilebosch, that he's gonna play with Duke Robillard, a gig in Ostende. He just won award, and this is a young Belgian piano player that plays blues and sings, and plays piano blues. So this is something that I really will push a little bit, because piano blues, right. I think it's disgrace that it's not featured more.
It's almost like now a dying art, but there just doesn't seem to be as many piano players.
Yeah. And that's why, you know, he is Belgian. I happen to have interviewed him, but he plays piano blues. So for me, there are a couple of things that he has going for him. So I'm gonna play him. I'm gonna try to not push it, but show the people that there's more than just guitar in blues. That's something. Like John Cleary, of course, he has that as well. Mm-hmm. That's something about the state of blues that I think is pretty sad a little bit. That the piano's just left on the side. It's like Bruce Katz told me, you know, we have a festival and they have 20 people playing there and there's 18 guitarists and there's one pianist there, so we don't need another.
Right.
I don't know. It's I struggle with that.
In what you do, and you do a lot of different things, what's the perfect moment for you? What do you enjoy the most?
Just the work, you know, preparing to something. It's beautiful to start on this journey. Okay, let's say. A Hungarian guitar player or something, to start on this journey, to see, okay, what makes this guy what he is, what ingredients made him. This is something that I really like a lot, you know, to start off as journey, and then to at the end of the journey to meet this guy, to talk with him, and to have this musical experience, to see him play a couple of songs. I think that's beautiful. And then, of course, when you can finish that in a radio show and feature him, that's like the topping on the ice cream. But just the journey is beautiful. Every new journey is, you find out things about people, and that's beautiful, I think. Sometimes things that you didn't expect, or things that you as well have going for yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's that makes it worth it, you know, to do all this work.
My final question to you. Do you have goals? Are there goals that you're trying to achieve at this point? Like you're at 670 shows or whatever Are you hoping to get to 1,000? Are there people you want to interview?
Yeah, it's a never-ending story. You know, there's always people you want to reach. There's people that are out of reach from certain aspects of music industry. You know, when Quincy was alive, I really wanted to interview him. Because I had so many things prepared and thought, you know, there's so many things that people don't ask him, and I know he's gonna want to talk about these things if somebody asks him. And I aim pretty high, and I know that the chance of some things happening are almost zero, but I try, I aim,
But when they happen,
they can happen, and if they not happen, even if they not happen, there are other things that happen on the road to that.
mm-hmm.
And of course, I went to see a couple of times the Hans Zimmer show, the film composer, and I liked a lot of his music. But towards that journey, I learned about musicians of his orchestra, and I learned about Juan Garcia Herreros, who's now is one of his composers as well, and his bass player. And I learned about Pedro Eustache, this guy I did an interview with him here in Brussels, and he told me so many incredible stories about classical music, about growing up poor and the flutes and playing. He plays like 500 types of flutes, and being involved in so many soundtracks, but also he's very spiritual, religious. Just this, because I was going to Hans Zimmer show, I learned about Pedro Eustache, and just the interview with him was such a fulfilling experience. And I've gained a friend, you know, when I send him something, he always responds, so he respects me back when he plays all over the world. So I don't really have any goals. I have, of course, people that I want to talk to, but the chance of them happening or not happening, I don't have that in my hands. So
right.
I'm happy where I am now.
I've been in Belgium for 5 days now.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful country, and I really appreciate the chance that I get to meet you in person.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Nico, thank you so much for doing this.
Yes, thank you for inviting me.